In this video we'll show how you can use the form controls flow layout container and column layout container to create complex form layouts. So you can see here we have a UX component with a list control which represents the data source of our form view control, and then on the right here we have a form view control that has been laid out using flow containers and column containers. So you can see that as we navigate from row to row, the form is updated. And if we look at this form, we can see that the form itself has been divided up into 3 columns. This is column 1, this is column 2, this is column 3. And then within the first column, we've basically got a nested column layout that is dividing these controls here into 2 columns. And then we have a nested flow layout that is basically putting 3 fields on the same line at 33% each. So this layout was achieved by using flow containers and column containers. So what we're going to do in this video is actually describe how a layout like this would be created using flow containers and column containers. So let's basically go back to design mode right now. And let's take this existing form control and just go ahead and delete it and then add in a new form control. So we'll go to our form control and we'll set the properties of our form control. We'll choose our data source as list 1, and then we'll go to our form layout and we'll just go ahead here and add all of the controls in without using any containers at all. So let's go ahead now. Let's set the width of this form, say, to 6 inches. And then go ahead and see what it looks like. So we'll go there now and render it, and we can see that basically the form is rendered, and it's rendered with one control after the other. There's no layout at all going on here. So let's go back now to design mode and start modifying this form. So the first thing we'll do is go and set the control type for these 2 thumbnail images to be a data bound image. So we'll go here and we'll change this to a data bound image, and we'll change this one here to a data bound image as well. So now when we go ahead and render it, we'll see it looks a little bit better. We have our 2 thumbnail images there, but again there's no layout going on right now. So there's no columns or flow layout. So let's go back now and start adding layout. So we'll go back here. I can see I put the wrong control type there, so let's change that to image data bound. And now let's go here and wrap everything inside a layout container. So first we'll demonstrate a column layout container. So we'll go there and choose column, then click OK. So you can see now everything inside the column layout container is going to be in a column, but at this point we haven't inserted any column breaks. So when we look at this in the preview mode, it still looks pretty much like it looked before. Everything is still in a single column. So let's go now and insert a column break after city. So we'll go there and turn on the break over there. So there's our column break over there. So now because we've inserted one break, we're going to have 2 columns in this layout. So we'll go there now, and we can see we have 2 columns in the layout over there, and we've got a line separating the 2 columns. So if we go here and we look at this layout here, we can see that on the column properties we've specified that there is a line between columns, and we've also specified that the line should be solid 1 pixel black, so we can control the appearance of the line. We've also specified that the columns are of equal width and that the total width of the columns is 100%, and we've specified that before the first column we want a 10 pixel spacer, after the last column we want another 10 pixel spacer, and then we want 20 pixels above and below all of the columns. So let's go now and change this to explicit, and we'll make the first column say 70%, comma, and then the second column 30%. So let's go ahead now and see how this looks. And then we can see now we've got 70% and then we've got 30%. So let's go now and change this so that within this first column over here we actually create another column container. So let's pause now and pick this up in the next video. So we're continuing now with our video, and let's say that the next thing we'd like to do is get these two controls here that are in column 2 to be on the same line. So we'd like thumb and thumb 2 to be on the same line. So let's go back here and let's go to our form properties, and first thing I'm going to do is give a little bit more space to this column. So I'm going to change this from 70-30 to 60-40, and then I'm going to go to these two controls over here and wrap them in a flow container. So I'll go there and I'll say layout container flow. So now I have a flow container there, and then I want these two controls to both be 50% wide. So now we'll go ahead now, and when we render this, we see that basically in the second column these two controls now are on the same line because we've inserted a flow container within the column container. So so these two controls here, instead of basically being one after the other as they would normally be in a column container, are flowed now from left to right. So let's go now, for example, and divide some of these fields in the first column into a nested column container with say two columns. So let's go and take, say, company name, contact name, and contact title, and divide that into columns. So we'll go there and we'll go to company name, contact name, and title, and then add a layout container, which will be a column container. So now we have a column container there, and let's insert a column break after contact name. So now when we go ahead and we render it, we can see that basically we've got a nested column container within the first column. But when we look at the layout here, we see that the left edge of these two controls here is not flush with these controls, and the reason that that's the case is when we look at our nested column container over here, we can see that we've got spacing before the first column set to 10 pixels, which we're going to now go and remove, and spacing after last column set to 10 pixels, which we're now going to go ahead and remove. So now when we render this, we can see now that basically these columns, these controls are all lined up nicely over here. So basically at this point now we've basically got a nested flow container over here within the column container, and then we have a nested column container within a column within a master column container. So the ability to use flow containers and column containers when you're laying out your forms in a form view control gives you a great amount of flexibility in how the form itself is laid out. Thanks very much for watching.